Sire, welcome. Brilliant.
Why do you need a music stand?
I was gonna do a little solo just before we start. If that's all right.
Don't.
It's this year. One of you start reflecting on the year, don't you, as you get towards the end of it? And that one of the joys, the pleasures, privileges for me this year has been my friendship with Si and getting to know you, mate. It's been a real joy for me, and we've shared some really lovely times. And I realised most of the times we've shared have been at Si's house in Reading, and headed down a couple of times on the train, and we've had great times. Si came to stay this weekend, and it's great that he's still here with us. You haven't left early. But I was reminded why I go to stay at your house usually. A, because my kids aren't anywhere near us.
Yeah.
And B, my wife is not around to spread the dirt, because last night it was just 2 hours
of spectacular,
of relentless abuse.
It was brilliant. It was a lesson in why never take an open mic out amongst the church. A lot of stories I could share, but this don't feel appropriate.
No, it was an interesting one. But sorry, it's as I said, for the guys who were here yesterday morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're going to hear it all again.
I've been back to Google. We've got some new photos, some fresh photos, some of the same from yesterday. But in all seriousness, yesterday morning for me just had a huge impact. I know quite well the story of the last year, especially. But there was some stuff you shared that I didn't know, and I think one of the things I've said to Si regularly over the course of this year is that his story has impacted so many people, and there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is because he's been incredibly open with his story, and he's been prepared to share it with people. But he touches, as you're going to find out, 3 areas in life that I think all of us struggle with. One is the area of faith. What is faith? What do we believe in? Who do we believe in? The first area. The second is the area of mental health. And I know that in the last few weeks, there's been people here who've been incredibly open about their struggles with mental health. And I commend you massively for being brave enough to speak about those things and to share those things. And then the third is grief. And it's one thing that this nation does not do well, is grief. We just don't do it well. And I'm just blown away by friendship with Si and seeing how open he is. And the reason he's open, I think, and I'm sure you'll say this, is because A, you really miss Gemma and you love Gemma dearly. But B, you want to help others. And mate, that is remarkable, and it's so selfless of you. So thank you again for being here. So he wasn't meant to share it really this morning, but David asked him to, and I knew you'd say yes, and you're amazing for that. So we're going to go back to the beginning a little bit. You're a vicar's son. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about growing up.
Yes, we grew up in West Norfolk, a little village called Grimston. My dad was a vicar of kind of 3 churches in rural ministry. That's how it tends to work. And we grew up in a village called Grimston, beautiful place to live amongst the fields, boys' own stuff. For me, I could ride my bike around the village. There were streams nearby that built rafts. I had a sister, a year younger than me, called Becky, and then my youngest sister, Hannah, arrived 6 years later. And, you know, what I always appreciated with my mum and dad is that God was obviously part of family life. No getting away from that. My dad's a vicar. It's a bit of a fraud that God didn't teach me family life. But I never, ever felt under pressure that I had to believe what mum and dad believed. God was just present in life. I enjoyed going to church like you guys are today, going to Sunday school. My best mates in Norfolk were all at Sunday school. And I just grew to know about this Jesus figure, this God figure, but never ever at any point in my childhood did I feel my mum and dad's kind of pressure. You've got to conform, you've got to believe. And then we moved to Sheen in Surrey when I was 10, which was a massive contrast to rural Norfolk. We went into the rat race. The rat race of education. I went to Southern private school, because the 2 schools I went to, a prep school and a public school, had been founded for vicar's sons. So we went on the free. You know all about this. Yeah. And it was a very different pace of life. You know, a lot of pressure in terms of education, of getting the right results, being good, sporting wise, almost very different. But who laughed there? I was not very good at sport. But it was that was my life, you know, as a youngster growing up. And I am thankful to my parents that they allowed me, gave me the freedom to make my own mind up about who God was.
Yeah, and yesterday you shared a remarkable story. Very early on in your life, you really sensed God spared you. Just tell us about this incident again. When you're in the forest playing around with sisters.
Well, I think sometimes God can feel a little bit abstract, particularly when you're growing up. You kind of hear about him at Sunday school, you hear about him at church, and you kind of wonder, well, who is this figure? Is he real? Is he just this grand figure from Sunday school stories? And this was a moment in my life that has remained with me ever since. You simply can't forget it. But a moment where I felt that God made himself very, very real. And I was 7 years old, my sister Becky was 6, my Hannah was 1. And we were in Grimston in Norfolk in this village. It had just chucked it down all morning. There was nothing really to watch on the telly. Very limited choice back in those days. It wasn't quite black and white, but it was a while ago. Not an awful lot of choice. And we were getting a bit stir crazy. Dad was in meetings all morning, and we had lunch. And then the sun came out. We thought, let's just get out of the house. So Mum and Dad took us on this walk to these nearby forests called Mattingham Woods. And off we went on this walk. And it's a big old forest. It's a big clearing through the middle of it. And there's just pine trees everywhere. None of them are climbable. So for a 7-year-old boy who liked nothing more than climbing trees, it was a massive disappointment. But eventually this different tree appeared. Just this one tree, a big huge tree. And immediately I was up it and prancing around. And then eventually I came down and I sat in the sort of middle bit here, a bit like on the stool, my legs hanging over the edge. My mum was stood there holding Hannah, who was 1, and my dad was stood about here with Becky. And it started to rain again. And Mum looked at us and said, I think we need to move to the other side of the clearing, which was about as far away as that wall there. Made no sense, because this huge tree was providing all the shelter we could ever need in the rain shower. And about a minute later, she says it again, but this time with a little bit more seriousness to her voice. I think we should move to the other side of the clearing. Again, we shouted out, Mum, don't be so stupid. Dad's getting annoyed with Mum. It won't come on to you. We don't need to move. And then about a minute later, the rain just got a little bit heavier. She looked again, and I remember her, I can see her eyes now, looking at me, so I think we need to move, and we need to move now. And so reluctantly, Dad said, look, just do what your mum says. And I got out of the tree reluctantly, and we just went across the other side of the clearing. And within seconds of arriving there, all I can describe it as, in terms of what I heard, was like the sign of a tornado jet coming through the forest. Unmistakable, loud noise. And I remember looking up, and just a tunnel of fire above our heads. And then an almighty explosion, and then this huge great flood. And as the smoke cleared and everything calmed down around us, clearly we were freaked out, began to leg it. But as we legged it back towards the car, you could see this great big tree where I'd been sat and see moments ago. And we went back later that evening. We didn't stand there and look at it like that. But that's my mum there. That's my sister Hannah. That's the tree I was sat in. And we went back there with very close friends from our church that evening because we were clearly understandably traumatized by this. And our friend Chris took that photo that now sits on my desk at home. And ever I have those moments where I think, this is God figure through, I look back at that and remember this moment because Rosemary, Mum's close friend from our church, said to Mum, having heard the story as I just told her, said, why on earth did you move? Because it made no sense. You were in shelter already. Why move? And Mum started to heard a very clear voice in my head saying, we need to move now. You know, all these years later, I remember being in the church, this has happened a couple of times, speaking at an event a little bit like this, but not sharing this story. A guy came up to me, I was about 28 at the time, and said, I just want to know, as a church, we're praying for you on repeat, that you continue to do that. Thanks for, coming to events like this. So I asked you, he didn't know the story. At the age of about 7, did you have something that happened in your life that made God feel very real to you? Oh, yeah, I like that. And that was it. And some people without a faith might say, well, that's just a wonderful coincidence. Good on you. Lucky you got away with it. As a Christian, I look at that and say, no, that was a moment where that God that I'd learned about for years made himself very real. And when I do have those moments of doubt, I glance my eyes at that photo and remember then on that day, maybe that's it.
Very good. Amazing story, sorry.
That's all right. You okay?
Oh, no. Looking at that tree. It was a nice tree. It was
lovely.
Sorry, we talked yesterday, you obviously then education, university, and what I hadn't realised before talking to you yesterday was that you really sensed God's call for you to go into the media. Can you just tell us a little bit, because obviously your first job, I think. Here we go.
Actually, they're not some of the words, to be fair. Some of the words. No,
just tell us a little bit about how you felt God sort of led you in that direction.
I just kind of had an interest in, particularly in Blue Peter growing up as a kid. I thought nothing more though than this would be an amazing show to work on. But I don't think as a kid I was thinking one day I will. And I went to university kind of to do history, didn't know really why I was doing history, I just did it because I was good at it. And they had a TV station at Birmingham University called Guild TV. And it was full of proper equipment because there used to be old BBC studios near to Birmingham University called Pebble Mill. And this guy who ran it had raided all their second-hand stuff and built a proper studio with 3 cameras, a proper gallery with a sound gallery, vision mixer and everything. Essentially, the tools you need to do a live show. I did a terrible show for the Lunchbox on Friday. Absolutely nobody watched it. It was on monitors in the corner. Did you go to Birmingham University? No. Did you do Guild TV? Have you done TV presenting? No. You're just finding the story amusing. Nobody watched it, but I just got a taste for it. And when I came to leave Birmingham, I remember this girl who went on to work for Newsround saying, good at it. Why don't you give it a shot? I came out of university and thought, right, I'm going to go to this. I went back to my parents who are now living in Beccles and stuff at the last parish my dad had. Beautiful summer's day, and I'm all ready to start mission Get Blue Peter. I've given myself 3 years. And I had this book with all the contact names of the Beatles in it. I was about to go downstairs, start writing endless letters to try and get a runner's job, because the hardest thing to do in terms of media is to get your foot in the door. When you get your foot in the door, you've got a chance then to impress. You've got a chance to maybe make your way up the ladder, but that moment in the football is hard. And I was all ready to go and write these letters, waiting for Dad to clear out his office downstairs, get on his old dilapidated iMac, and start writing. And I sat there and just had this moment. I thought, you know what? I haven't actually asked God if He's in this. Is this just my dream that's all about me and what I want to do? And actually, I'm about to chase something for the next 3 years that He isn't even in. So this is just my ambition. This is what I want to do. And I just thought, right, okay, God. I was quite direct, and I think sometimes in life with faith, we just need to be direct with God. You can handle it. I just said, God, I don't want to waste the next 3 years of my life chasing something that you maybe don't want me to do. I just need you to give me a sign that I'm not about to waste the next 3 years of my life. I went down a few minutes later, I sat in my dad's study, just about to start writing. I looked on the left-hand side, there was this pile of magazines. There's a magazine called the Alpha magazine. It wasn't connected to the Alpha course at the time. And as I looked at the kind of side headlines on the front cover, it was why we need more Christians in media. Like, wow. Straight to page 67, I wrote this amazing article. I don't know if you've ever sat in this church or at a meeting, whatever it might be. If someone gets up the front and stands and speaks, and it feels like you are the only person in that room. Like that talk, that testimony, whatever they're sharing, is just for you. And when I read that article by Steve Chalk, who runs the Oasis Trust, was doing a lot of media stuff at the time, I ended up working with for a year, and Pam Rose, who was presenting Songs of Praise. And Steve said a really good thing, just kind of Steve Chalk all over. He said, you know what, if you as a Christian don't like what you see on television, if you as a person of faith do not like what you hear coming out of your radio speaker, if you as a Christian don't enjoy what you read in your newspapers every morning and the way in which it's reported, then don't stand on the sidelines and throw stones. Don't stand there criticising the journalists and the presenters and the producers. Get involved. Because when you look at the life of Jesus, this is not a man who stood on the outskirts of Jerusalem and said, right, you come to me when you're ready. He went to them. He got involved. I just read it and thought, this is it. This is the green light. In the end, it takes 3.5 years. And eventually, after a long process, I did proper from Richard Baker, did some naughty stuff and getting sacked. But I tried twice, didn't get anywhere. Then that happened to him. I think last chance, I'm going to give it one last roll of the dice. And eventually it happened. But it was knowing when I was having those times of doubt that this isn't going to happen. I thought back to that afternoon in Beccles and stuff and remembered that moment when God, I felt so resurrected.
We spoke yesterday on the way home. I'm just going to ask you one instant, Bruce. Tell us about the parachute. You know,
it opens.
Yeah, it opens. No, but it nearly didn't.
Oh, right.
That story.
Yeah. Very quickly. I did listen. Gemma, my late wife, used to say, "Why do these things always happen to you?" In terms of my testimony.
Why the parachute was open?
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing Kate would say. Yeah. We must go.
She'd already snipped it off.
Sorry. We must go parachuting sometime. No, I got asked to do a film on Blue Peter, which was essentially the culmination of it was going to be doing a display jump, the RAF Falcon, in the summer. So we went out in the January of that year to San Diego, where they do all their winter training, like the Red Arrow do their winter training in Cyprus, the RAF Falcon go to San Diego, because it's blue skies every single day. And I thought I'd be fine. Yeah, it was going to be quite overpowering and nerve-wracking, but I thought I'd be okay with it. And we got to, I think it was jump number 4, the first 3 got okay. And on every jump, I come down with an instructor either side, one with Toby, one with Roger. They hold onto your arm. They wait till you get your jump height at 5,500 feet. You pull your chute, out it comes. Then you're on your own, but you've got the worst bit over. Jump number 4, I pulled the chute, as I always was doing at 5,500 feet, and nothing happened. It felt a lot longer than it was, but I eventually could feel the sensation of that happening on my back. And eventually, thankfully, the chute appeared and down we come, but my heart was going. And they did say later, which was a mistake, but after every jump, we'd gather in the small room at the aerodrome, and we would watch the video back of how the jump had gone, just to see how your body position is, because your body position when you skydive is all important. And I saw what had happened unfolding. You can see Toby and Roger, they pull it and literally punch it in the back. Now, to cut a long story short, I lost my box. I did 2 more jumps, and then the trip was over. We did a really naff film on the local fire brigade to make up for the money we lost in the film. And I went back home with the tail between my legs. But actually, the program became something very different, because what parents particularly appreciated when they ended up watching it, and why we got such a huge response, was that we were kind of seen, in inverted commas, as kind of superheroes. We went out and did all these challenges, and yet here was one of us failing and not realising the dream they had. And seeing a bit of vulnerability, seeing someone say, I didn't make it, I couldn't do it, actually resonated with a lot of parents. Said, you know what, that meant so much to my kids, because they realised it's okay to fail. But a year later, I said, could I go back? I did a few jumps in Oxford, got my bottle back. I said, can I go back? And so out we went again. And we got there to the same hotel. It smelled exactly the same. Smells fire off memories. And all the thoughts and memories and nightmares of a year ago came flooding back. And I lie in bed all that night awake. And there's one thing going through my head. I'm putting my trust, essentially when you parachute jump in 2 bits of fabric into the string. They go, I will find out tomorrow whether this God I believe in, this Jesus story, rising on the third day, is true. And it frightened the life out of me. I turn up to breakfast the next morning, I'm pale as anything. My director, Alex, who directed the likes of John Noakes and everybody like that, a real kind of brigadier type figure, looked at me, you look awful. I said, oh, Alex, it's okay, I haven't said it. You're not losing your bottle, are you? And I was. And I thought, what am I doing back down here? And I spoke to Gemma on the phone, and she said, ring Phil. Now, Phil Wall was the guy I've got to know. He spoke at our wedding, he worked at Salvation Army. Great guy. He said before I went down there, any problems, give me a ring. Now, it's sort of evening time back in the UK. So I rang Phil, I said, I'm struggling. He said, let me pray for you right now. And I told him that struggle with it, it's true. And he said, I pray now in the name of Jesus. If Simon goes to that drop zone today, he would know in a really tangible way that God is real. A few minutes later, he decided to put the phone down and said, amen. To go across to Dunkin' Donuts to get some donuts for the RF boys, just to get them in amongst them and get accepted as we made the half-hour trip in the minibus to the drop zone. As I stood at the traffic lights about to cross to get the donuts, I got a tap on my shoulder. I looked behind me, a young guy I'd never seen before. And he was looking at me and said, I want you to know that it's Jesus who you follow. It's true, and it is for real. I looked back this way, kind of a bit stunned. I looked round again, there weren't many people around, quite early in the morning. There's no way he could have got that quickly unless he used Usain Bolt times 10. This guy had disappeared. And I just felt that moment, it's like an angelic figure that just come alongside and said, you're going to be okay, this story is real. And I went on and passed the course and just had the most amazing week of jumping I've ever had. And it was another moment where I felt God tangibly intervening and saying, you know what, I am for real.
Yeah. Brilliant, so fantastic. Yesterday, I shared that when I was messing around online a few weeks ago, I found
that never sounds good, that.
No, it doesn't, sorry. But online, I found that this picture, signed, was for sale.
Yeah.
And
on eBay?
I think it was eBay, and it fetched a princely sum, £5. We'll be kind, we'll give you 58 pence for shipping as well. So £5.58. You won't believe this though, mate.
Well, you bought it.
No, I didn't, but someone in this church did.
No, they didn't.
They did.
Right.
That is amazing. Jeffrey. I'll give you 10 quid for it.
That is a plant. I was wondering earlier, what is that frame on your seat? That's why you were in the office for an hour this morning, wasn't it?
Internet wasn't working. Yeah. From Blue Peter, moving swiftly on. You move swiftly on to Sky. Yeah, there we go. And this is the sort of job that most boys and maybe some of the girls would love to. I would love to work for Sky, and not maybe as a runner or a cleaner, but maybe just.
That probably would have been your limit.
Thanks very much. I reckon I could have done your job. No, anyway, it was. How long were you with Sky for?
13 years.
13 years. And how many? So when you went in, was that immediately to present? Did you go?
Yeah, I wanted to get into sport quite early on in Blue Peter. You know, you've got a fairly finite period in kids TV. I had 6 years of Blue Peter, 6 of the best years of my life. But I knew that it would finish quite soon. Peter Purves always used to say, when you see it, it doesn't last long, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
But it did go quick. I early on made the noises to BBC Sport that that's where I wanted to work next. Now BBC Sport didn't take it on in the end because I don't think 50% was working for BBC Sport. So I went to Sky and they were much more broad-minded. But I knew I'd got to sort of not quite start again. I had the live TV experience, but I didn't have the journalistic training. So I started at Sky Sports News. My aim eventually was to hopefully one day get through the Premier League. That's what most people rock up at Sky, particularly from a football point of view. That's where they want to get to. But it was 11 years before I made it. I had 5, 6 years of Sports News.
So you started Sky Sports News,
then the Football League,
and then you Football League.
Yeah.
Did you not do cricket out? That came up.
Yeah, it was a little touch of cricket for a couple of years.
Yeah, cricket, and then Football League.
Yeah,
and then you did a season and a bit.
Only a season and a bit.
Season and a bit. Yeah, Premier League. Brilliant. I was saying to the guys yesterday, that was when I first became aware of Sight, because I was watching him present one day and I thought there's a sort of grace and manner about it that is kind and quite honourable. And I went on Twitter, looked you up, and the first thing you say on your Twitter page is Simon Thomas Christian. And I thought, that's interesting. And I think, I'm sure many of you out there, when you realise maybe there's an actor or an actress who's a Christian, or you find out someone in the media, you just look out for their career a little bit more, and you maybe start praying for them. And that was, I guess, the first time I started thinking about you and praying for you in the work you did, because as you were saying earlier, Steve Chalk saying, there's actually far too few people in the media, in sport, who are Christians, sadly. We're going to move on to this lovely lady, Gemma, and you guys. I love the story, mate. It was through a Steve Chalk event, and you went in. Go on, tell us.
Well, she ended up. So I worked for the Oasis Trust for a year, and then I got the Blue Peter job. And a couple of years later, Gemma, who'd been at Sheffield University at the time, and actually bizarrely said to her housemate, "I'm going to meet him one day." Never more than meet. She said, "I'm going to marry him. I'm going to meet him one day." She ends up doing exactly the same job as me at Oasis. Yeah. And one summer, I've been on Blue Peter for a couple of years. My old boss, her current boss, Ivor, had a late summer party in his house near Ascot, and I went there to try my luck with another girl, Sarah, because I didn't know anything about Gemma. I never met her. Didn't get very far with Sarah, but there was this vision of beauty there that I think thinks to really top I'd never seen before. I got introduced to her. Her name was Gemma. And you just have those moments in life where you meet someone and you just hit it off. You have those moments where you meet. I know this didn't happen with Kate Bates. You know all that.
What were you calling it? A story of
I called it a reluctant love. Look at Kate's face. Honestly, we heard so much last night. Do go round to theirs for dinner sometime. But one of those moments where the conversation, you don't notice that 50 minutes has gone. And I just connected with her. And the trouble was that the evening went on, because in September it got cold very quick, we all went indoors. I go indoors, and unfortunately another lady from the Oasis called Becky has had the lion's share of the busy stuff, and decides this is her chance to try and grab me. And so as Gemma walks back into the room to say goodbye, I'm literally being pinned against the wall trying to get out like this. But I managed again to push Becky away and just got my number to Gemma, got hers as well. And then I broke the house rule we have with the free guy delivery. I broke the 48-hour rule.
Yeah. And one thing led to another, and there you are, suddenly married.
4 years later.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 years. What were you, 5 weeks?
It wasn't very long, was it?
6 months. That's fairly rapid.
Yeah, one shot of glory.
It's starting to go the wrong direction.
Not about me. Simon, you guys were married, and then and not too long after, lovely little Ethan comes along. Yeah. And I've met Ethan a number of times. He is a blessed, lovely little fella. He's a sweet man. I said yesterday, I never met Gemma. I feel I have, because when I've been around Simon's house, the kitchen is very much Gemma's kitchen, and there's photos, but actually, what has led me to see the most of Gemma's character is Ethan. Because he is such a sweet-natured little boy. And we were just speaking the other day, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but my phone Simon, he said, it's been a bit of a tough day. I was sitting on the stairs earlier, having a tough time. And Ethan just came up to you and put his arms around you and told you everything was going to be okay. And I just thought, that's a very, very special 9-year-old who does that. And so, yeah, he came along and just what's so touching is particularly seeing your relationship with him now, but also
Yeah.
seeing the relationship that he had with his mum, Gemma.
Yeah.
And she was just doting mother, wasn't she?
Well, we were very blessed because I know that for some people this is not how parenthood works. There's that pressure for both mum and dad to work, but also there's the pressure of other people being single parents. And we were very blessed. I did a job that I loved. The only inconvenience was the holidays and the weekends, but actually it worked. And I was paid a kind of salary that allowed Gemma to do what she wanted, which was to spend as much time with her boy as she could, bring him up. And I do see that now. I see the heartbreak is that story, that amazing bond that they had over 8 years being suddenly brutally quick broken. But I see so much when people talk about Gemma looking down on us, the kind of white feather brigade, they're called. No, I see Gemma in my boy. I see that the years, you know, the years of love that she poured into him. I see the grace he had, the generosity of spirit, the kindness, the love, the compassion. So much of that radiates out of him now. And these remarkable kids, the way they respond to something like this is quite different to how an adult does. They show us strength that you can't even begin to believe they have. You know, a couple of weeks ago, it was the year anniversary of Gemma going. We took ourselves to North Norfolk to a place called Blakeney, a beautiful place where we holidayed quite a lot of time with the family. And Ethan just came up to me on the stairs. He was aware it was the year anniversary on the Saturday. So he just comes up, puts his arms around me and says, Daddy, I know it's getting quite sad. It's heavier struggle coming into the home. And in some ways, he's becoming his mum. And now in the car, he sometimes says, if I'm getting annoyed with driving on the way to school, he'll grab my arm and he'll stop getting stressed, Daddy. He becomes, or the kids almost become, and feel part of the shoes of the figure that's been lost. I see Gemma and the kind of person that she was. And actually her face radiates.
But so I also, it's a lot down to your character as well, mate. And you know, you're a kind man, and that comes through in me as well. So you know, take some credit for a lot of credit for who you are. You guys, I'm quite. When did you actually move to Reading?
2011.
2011. There you are outside the red door. I love that red door.
The Downing Street shop.
The Downing Street shop. Yeah, very good. And there was a story you shared yesterday that I think sums up Gemma's heart. We haven't got massive time, but just tell us very quickly about the Syrian refugee family, because that is, I think, if you want to hear one thing about Gemma and who she was, this story sums her up.
Well, it was a period where the Syrian refugee crisis was part of the news agenda, which sadly it isn't at the moment because the horror of Brexit dominates everything. But that awful shot that appeared on newspapers around the world of that Syrian kid who was washed up on the beach impacted so many. But you know, it didn't impact enough to put their money where their mouth is and actually do something. I remember watching those news reports come in night after night, and Gemma sat on the sofa opposite in tears. But in the end, those tears of sorrow and pathway to what's happening became tears of action. And she wanted to do something. So very briefly, she set up with a group of women and men at our church, a group to look into how we as a church in Reading could house the Syrian family, doing a small bit, but doing something, because social media outrage, the hashtags are not enough. It's all too easy to join the bandwagon and say this is horrible. Only a few actually do something about it. And at the moment she's got ill, she's got the Home Office approval, that's now in with the Home Office. The church is in the process of buying a house into which that family will move. And now, thankfully, there was a lull when the women were so devastated by Gemma going, where it did lose momentum. And now it's picked up momentum again. The applications with the Home Office. And in a few weeks' time, that Syrian family will come to Reading and will live in a house that's called Gemma's house. And so her legacy, her compassion, putting her money where her mouth is, putting actually that Jesus-shaped compassion into action, which is what he calls us to do, sums her up, but actually is an amazing legacy.
And that's a massive challenge for every one of us here. That is faith in action. It's so, you know, as you said this yesterday, I remember seeing that son, just a terrible photo of that little boy sleeping on the beach. And I remember, you know, the first thing I did, I didn't actually sleep very well that night, and I remember going to Facebook, putting the photo and writing about it, and that's all I did. And I really think I need to learn to be more active with my faith. So thank you for that challenge. Thank you, Gemma, for that challenge. So last year you started writing a blog. You're a really good writer, which is good because you're writing a book. Just plug it out there. Out when? In June?
Father's Day.
Father's Day in June. So, right. But the point is, he was writing a blog, and I don't know if many of you have read. I'm sure many of you have read his blog. There was one particular entry, though, that sort of blew the internet to pieces. And it was your entry on mental health, on anxiety, and particularly the depression that you faced. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, up until 4 or 5 years ago, I really had no brushes at all with mental health problems. But we wanted to have a brother or sister at Brisbane, and we found out as we tried to have a brother or sister, Gemma had a very serious fertility problem, a very, very low egg count. In many ways, it's a bit of a miracle that we've got him, that I've got him now. But we found this out, so we decided to go down the IVF route. The first cycle failed completely. The second cycle worked, and Gemma fell pregnant, but only 3 to 4 weeks later she had a miscarriage, and our hopes and dreams and the brother were gone. And we dealt with that in different ways, as men and women so often do. I kind of retreated to my cave, as the counsellor called it, and didn't want to come out of that cave for a while. The problem was I did that, I began to isolate myself from actually Gemma in some ways, from my friends, from my family, from people who support me. And as that continued, I became more and more isolated until I ended up depressed. I ended up having to take antidepressants. Thankfully, it was quite a short period. I managed to keep working throughout it. It's quite a strange thing the brain does when you're suffering from like depression, particularly doing my job. It's quite a vulnerable job. You know, you're in front of a camera. You're doing your job in front of people. It's not an important job, but it's different in that respect. It's quite a vulnerable place to be. I find that go on air and the clouds are clear for 3 hours. And I'd come off there again and the clouds would regather. But those 3 hours on air were like a holiday from all the problems I was going through. But then it went, and that was it. And last September, I can honestly say family life was the happiest it's ever been, because that angst and that bitterness and anger and not being able to get it gone. We were at peace as a couple, at peace as a family. We felt happy. The refugee project was coming on. I was entering my second season on the Premier League. Everything in life felt good. And then one morning, I wake up and it just felt horrendous. No reason for it at all, but just a feeling in my stomach, a knot of stomach, kind of feeling how you're facing just your worst fear. And yet I'm facing a show in the evening called The Debate, which is a show with 2 guests, 5 topics. You could do it if you've been doing what I've been doing long enough with your eyes shut. You should not be getting worried about it. But as the weeks went on, this anxiety that then fed into bringing my depression back grew in momentum until it culminated. And the last time I ever worked for Sky, I went to see a game between Manchester United and Tottenham at Old Trafford. And for about half an hour from going on air, I'd not slept that night at all. But I went to the OB truck, the outside broadcast truck, for our production meeting in the morning. It was like an out-of-body experience. Voices were like echoes in my head. I didn't take on anything that they were saying in terms of what I had to do in the hour build-up, where there's a lot to remember. There's no auto cue. You've got graphics to go to, BTs to link to, questions to ask. There's a lot to remember. It was just echoes in my head. I sat down and thought, I don't know what's going on. But I could sense the clock ticking around till it was 11:30 when we go on air. About 20 minutes before, I could feel a panic attack setting in. I left the studio. I literally ran across the bar that was adjacent to the studio at Trafford, crashed into the disabled room, locked the door for me into privacy, and just sobbed on the floor. And what got me through that and got me eventually back to my feet and back to the studio, and thankfully I was able to go on air and do the job, was the reassuring, calming, loving word of Gemma at the end of the phone. She said an incredible prayer down the phone that got me back to my feet. And you know what, my boss in the weeks afterwards, I told him the story, that I've watched that game back time and time again. I can't see anything of what we were going through. If anything, your performance that day went up a level. So there's 3 things happening there. 1, the brain's amazing. 2nd, Gemma was just so incredible at saying the right words, but actually gone on that day. Was there, but I've never been able to go back to it for lots of different reasons. But one of the differences is that I just thought if I go back to this job, whenever it has been, if it's at the start of the season, I find myself back at a football ground, and that happens again. How can I get through it knowing that the one person that I can always turn to, it isn't going to be at the end of that phone. So, it's great friends and family say, we'll be there for you, we'll answer the phone, but if you're not Gemma, I can't ring her anymore. So for me, in so much of my life now, it's actually about drawing a line and saying, I've got to reshape life now. I've got to find life again in a different way. I want to stay in broadcasting. It's going to be something different. Actually talk and work with my boys in terms of how the football season works out. I need a new start. But it was a really hard period. And then you crash into what happened to Gemma with all of that still going on.
And we're going to move on to a little bit like that. Last year. It was September, she it was quite an entertaining intro. She tripped. What did you do?
She tripped up a curb.
Tripped up a curb.
Taking each on the school run to school, and breaks her metatarsal in her right foot, kind of a Beckham-esque.
Yeah.
And later that day is wearing a kind of dark Vader boot. And
tripped up a curb.
Tripped up a curb.
Yeah, and obviously, I guess less mobile around the house, and just for a few weeks you were having to do school runs.
Well, bizarrely, I had to start doing the school run. It was a weird period. It felt a little bit like there was some kind of preparation going on for what was about to happen. Because I'd never stopped doing the school run ever since we broke the metatarsal that day. We started doing, trips, just me and the boys together, without her. She'd be back at home, just wanting to rest her foot. We started with both of the time, which was really good. Because at the time, you're not thinking any more significant. I'm just looking after you.
And then obviously you get into October. You're understandably taking time off work.
Yeah.
Depression, and then Gemma starts getting these headaches and pretty bad headaches towards the middle of November. And being the remarkable person she was so much more concerned about you and your well-being. And then there was a weekend where she basically just was really struggling just to get out of bed and to go to the toilet. And so you would go to the doctor on, I think, the Monday, was it?
Well, the week leading up to the week she ended up in hospital, she had these headaches recurring, but they elongated, it became more intense. They eventually didn't really go. So we went to the doctor on Wednesday, and we sit down with our doctor. I was there to get more prescriptions for my depression, and we thought, let's go in together and ask about the headache. And we did, and he felt, and actually we felt, probably a lot of it was the insomnia that she had on and off since she had eaten, but also the stress she was feeling about seeing what was happening with me. And the fact the first time ever mental health was taking me away from work, she was stressed, she was worried. But over the course of the next 2 days, she goes downhill on the Friday, she's not really got out of bed, she rings me up, taking me to a little kid's party, and says, you need to get her because I need to go to the doctor, I've got a late appointment. We sit down with the doctor, a different one to our normal doctor, we check all her vital signs, and he says the words will live with me forever. I'm satisfied there's nothing seriously wrong with me. Just rest up, which she did for the weekend. She barely moved to bed. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we go back to the doctor. Gemma, being the kind of woman she was, insisted that I still go to my appointment with the counsellor. She wanted me to get better. She goes on her own to the doctor. Again, he does not pick up on it. It's back with our old doctor. And then by the Monday evening, she's been sick in the afternoon after everyone starts going seriously ill. She's in A&E in Reading. By Monday evening, I'm with her in the early hours in the morning. I can see on the doctor's face it's just that look of real, genuine concern. And they come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, I'm so sorry, he's got a blood cancer. I say 15 minutes later, I'm coming to and I'm looking at the bed across where Gemma's lying. And in terms of what happened to the depression, the anxiety, and the panic attack, at that point, it's like they evaporated. It's like a switch went on my head. It's vital flight time. I have to now fight with every got. Gemma, I did. I didn't leave her side apart from the Wednesday. We got transferred on the Tuesday. That's why I knew things were unraveling quite quickly. Tuesday, went to the Oxford Hospital to get some specialist treatment. She had acute mild leukemia. What happens very briefly is that it develops only over 2 to 3 weeks. It causes an explosion of white blood cells out of your bone marrow. Your normal white blood cell count for a healthy adult should be around 10 to 11. Hers is close on 400. Her blood had become so thick with these blood cells that it pushed it around her body. That's why she couldn't get out of bed. She was too fatigued. But it had caused damage to the little membrane in her brain. And then on the Thursday night, we're after twice a day having chemotherapy. Our bigger friends came in and saw David and Liz and our best friend David said to him, she looked really not too bad. She's got her arm, the colour was back in her face. I prayed with her, they anointed her oil, but not in terms of the last rite, but in terms of praying for healing and for Gemma to continue to go in strength, grow in strength. And then as they left, there was hours unfolding into Friday morning. The bleeding begins in the brain, and she was gone by Friday evening. Gone. Her life snatched away in 50 days. Well, mate, suck it up.
6-3, Thomas. 6-3. I saw this actually a while later. This is what you wrote on the 20th of, well, actually, 25th of November, but yourselves. think the one of the nightmare for any parent is the thought that you'll have to one day break to your children that your other half is left, has gone. And I can't imagine how tough it would be going home and seeing the little man and just telling him what's happened. Can you just tell us how, what happened there?
Well, it's interesting because a couple of weeks after this had all happened, we went on a walk into Reading on Saturday afternoon. He said to me, I've got something to ask you. I said, okay. Why didn't Mummy come home that night? Because his impression, understandably, it is for us, that his doctors and nurses are there to make people better. And that's his understanding. In April, that was his understanding, but he didn't understand that actually sometimes they can't make people better. And so he was expecting that Friday night, he came to see us twice on the Friday, then our friends took him back to our house. He was expecting not Mummy to come home that night, but that Mummy would be coming home. Yeah. And I remember the whole way there just thinking, how on earth do I tell them? How on earth do I break this? And I remember just thinking about the story of him losing his little cubby toy, his favourite little toy, Ubu, on a holiday. And he was absolutely heartbroken at losing it. I remember seeing his face, his reaction to just losing his cubby toy. And how on earth you tell your 8-year-old boy that Mum is gone? And I remember getting into the house, I remember just looking to the right and seeing him playing with his cousin Thomas, as he always did, that beautiful youthful innocence of childhood, blissfully unaware. Yes, he knows Mum's ill, but blissfully unaware of the problem that's about to go on. I look at the left, see my family and friends with that kind of pain look on their face. They know what is coming, and I knew that actually I'm the only one who could do this. I'm the only one. I had to grab him and take him upstairs. And I got a little blue seat where I did dress in the morning, sat him down in front of me. And I just, how do you dress this up? How do you dress this up? And they tried everything. They tried to make me better. But they couldn't, and I just remember looking at the front like, Mum's not died. And I had to deliver the answer. I never wanted to, no parent ever wanted to. I was thinking, yeah. And that was the floor with me. He rolled around for ages, and all I could think of saying was, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Time again until eventually we could get back to our feet and then go on this whole journey again. You know what you said, he is the single biggest reason, yes, God played a big part in it, he has. He is the single biggest reason why I stand on my own 2 feet again.
I shared this photo yesterday, I don't mind me sharing, but it was, you posted this about six weeks after Gemma died. You said, managing, I remember just the articles I got on Twitter, just captured saying, managed to get a smile out. And I just remember looking at that, and I'd been obviously aware of you on Sky Sports, and always looking at a picture of how, whether it was a real town or not, we'll leave that for others. But it was, you always look good, look great. And I saw this, and I thought, my word, it's 6 weeks, look what grief has done to someone. And I just thought, poor man, bless his brother, what a horrendous thing for you to go through. And I guess that was at this time, I was aware, we were talking and praying for you in the men's group here, and just seeing you there, and seeing you today, it's just testing me, come fine, you come. But just surviving those first few days, weeks, how do you go about doing that? What gets you through? I mean, I know you said Easter.
Yeah.
But what is it that gets you through?
There were moments in the early days where I felt a sense of God being closer than perhaps we'd ever been before. I remembered that phrase of the peace of God passes all understanding that comes from the Bible. And I don't think I realised until we went through this what that actually means. I just thought it was kind of nice place to go. Yeah. What's the understanding of it? Well, actually, it's about finding God's peace in the most unlikely of places. On the day that she went, on the day that our doctor said we've got hours to live, I felt a bizarre sense of calm, actually a bizarre sense of peace. It is inexplicable. I remember sitting at funeral directions where you are basically choosing a topic for your wife. It's a remarkable sense of peace. I remember going to the deathbed strike, feeling it again, and actually at the crematorium, an amazing service of Great Brighton Reading, over 500 people there. Everything I ever wanted it to be, but never wanted it to be. But the service that really reflected her as she was. But later on in that day, we had to do the horrible bit of the crematorium, which was river places, and that's dark. and all those kind of things. And I remember as the hearse pulled down a long drive, collapsed to the floor and screamed no at the graveyard. And my friends gathered around and my family picked at my feet. And I remember the guy called Carl Beach, who works for Christian Vision for Men, some of the guys who may be aware of it, but he prayed this really powerful prayer. He prayed for God's peace to descend on this place. And we went into this room, and this remarkable peace dwelt in that horrible, hopeless room. So much so that a girl I know called Nicola, who's married to one of my best mates, hasn't got a place. She lost her brother a couple of years ago to suicide. She had a really awful 2 years. Later that night, she said, we were singing this song. The guy singing near me, I know he's got a bad voice, and yet he sounded amazing. She said, I felt a peace in that room that I've never felt in my entire life. That is the peace of God that breaks through understanding. That is the peace of God that comes into the chaos. That is the peace that came in at Christmas. There's a nice nativity scene here. I'm not dissing your nativity scene, but it was a chaotic scene. It wasn't really like that. And Jesus breaks in, that light breaks into the chaos. His peace in an early days. All I could do, faith-wise, was hold on. But one of the things that he gave me was quite a different understanding of the Trinity, of how it works, of actually how God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit works. Because when I came out of that hospital on that Friday night, I shouted in ways I've never shouted at God. I said words at God that I've never said to God before. The 4 people coming into the hospital to make visits that evening were having to be consoled by my vicar, David, because they were going, what is going on? They weren't to know what had just happened. They got this lunatic who's on his knees on the cold concrete, shouting blue murder at God, shouting at God, why the hell have you let my 8-year-old boy, when I prayed with the most faith I've ever prayed, I laid hands on Gemma's head for hour upon hour, saying, stop that bleeding. You didn't. You fell silent. You were inactive. You didn't answer my prayer. Why? I was yelling at God. But you know what? Our God is beyond big enough to take that. God figure that I read about in the Bible, the creator of the universe, is beyond big enough to take me bellowing at him. God the Son was the guy, the Jesus figure, that sat alongside me on the second Saturday after she went. I hadn't slept that night. I was in my dressing gown. I put my boots on as the dawn came up and walked to the end of the garden, and then beyond the end of the garden to where the River Thames passes our garden in Caversham and Reading. And I just sat there sobbing at what had just happened and feeling no sense of desire to carry on with life. And at one point, I wanted to roll into the river and end it. But at that moment, 2 things happened. One is the image of Ethan comes into my mind very profoundly. I can see those eyes that I saw when I told him she's gone. But you know what? I felt a sense of Jesus alongside me. I felt his presence, this figure who was not saying anything, but was weeping alongside him, had his arms alongside him and just saying, it's going to be okay. And that is the Jesus figure I read about in the Bible. He's one who's got alongside those who mourn. He's got alongside the broken. And on that morning, just him sat there, saying nothing, meant everything. And I understood what that was about. And God the Holy Spirit is that Spirit that gives you that peace that passes all understanding. So I've come to see God in quite a different way than I've gone through something I just really rather not have been.
Yeah. And I think we're coming to a close here. Sorry, I just think one of the things, just practically, for those of us sitting here, I'm sure we all know someone who is struggling with mental health, or is struggling with grief, or maybe another struggle in their life. How important has friendship been for you in this last few months, last year?
Yeah, it's been huge. It has been huge. It is hard to get alongside the grieving. It is hard. And I think it's particularly hard when it happens at the wrong time in life. I hate to break it to you, ladies and gentlemen, but none of us are getting out of here alive. We know that at some point death is going to come, but it comes with the hope that it's not the end of Christian. But it's going to come. But if it comes at the right time in life, we've got a reference point. It's expected. When we lose a mother or father, it's hugely sad. It's devastating. Of course it is. But we expect it to happen. So we know the kind of words we say to that person, which is, what a wonderful life they have. All the amazing grandkids they have. What a great innings is a phrase that we often use. What do you say to someone like me, or countless others, like the mum at our school who lost her husband 5 weeks ago, got dead of a heart attack, Sunday afternoon bike ride with his son. His son's only 11. What do you say to her? Not so good innings. Not say what an amazing life you have. You can eventually, but at the time, actually, no help at all. I say to people that when you want to get around someone's gone through something like this, there is huge power in being present. People often say, oh, I don't know what to say. Actually, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to come up with some trite sentence about, well, at least he's in heaven now. Because quite frankly, for someone who's just lost their mum to an 8-year-old boy, that is of no use whatsoever. Yes, it's an eternal hope. But right now, Gemma should be here. She should be seeing that boy being raised and carry on raising him in the way she was. She's no use to me in heaven. Saying something like that is no help at all. There's power in being present, in sometimes getting alongside them, putting a hand on their shoulder, or putting an arm around them, or weeping with them, or sitting with them in silence, but being present. And I found that very powerful in the early weeks of men and women. Our door was like a revolving door, just being present. But I think, if I'm being totally honest, the longer it goes on, the harder it is to be around you. Because it is, in many ways, a mirror that's held up to your face and reminds us all, in a very uncomfortable way, that we are all mortal. And sometimes, even as Christians, horrible stuff happens. There is nowhere in the Bible where it will promise you an easy path. Nowhere in the Bible where it will promise you that stuff like this doesn't happen. And I think sometimes, and I found this for me, and I found it for others I've spoken about in this area, is that when something like this comes in, it breaks through our comfortable faith and asks us to ask real questions about who is this Jesus? Who is God? What is faith all about? And sometimes people find it easier to walk away from it because it confronts too much about actually who they are and what their faith is about. So I'd say the friendships have been amazing, but they've changed. Relationships have become strained in some areas. There's so much change that grief brings. And you find that there are others who can just sit alongside you better and for longer than others. You just have to learn to be grateful with those who can't.
Thank you so much, Si. I hope that's been enlightening for you. As I said at the right at the start, so many of us here are in really tricky places at the moment. You know, especially coming up to Christmas season, it's the story of goodwill. We're all meant to be happy, and the presents meant to be popping everywhere, and just everything. It's meant to be great times, and yet it's a time of loneliness for so many. It's a time of pain because it's maybe that first or second Christmas that you're without someone. And I just pray, you know, as a church, that we can hear Simon's word this morning, and that we can really, this Christmas especially, firstly look for our Saviour and give him the credit for Christmas, not the high street, and secondly, look out for, okay, who is that person that I can get alongside and just be in that same room with, that I can maybe weep with, that I can maybe talk with, maybe listen to. And I'd really encourage you that be a challenge over, as I said, over this Christmas season. Simon, early on, put this hashtag up on Twitter and on Instagram and so on, light in the darkness. And for me, it's been utterly remarkable seeing his faith in action, seeing the way he has trusted the Lord Jesus, seeing his honesty with the Lord Jesus, and also just seeing how he has enabled the light to shine in people's lives that are dark, where they feel lost. And so I just want to cry. I just want to commend you for being so brave, for trusting in the Lord Jesus so much in the last year especially, being the most wonderful dad, giving up the dream job, I think, anyway, my dream job, being on Sky Sports, and giving that up because you want to be with your son every weekend. You don't want him to be part of your nanny and friends and so on. And then for just being so open about your pain with mental health, your faith, and your grief. And so many people, just the other night we were out in Gloucester, and this lady came up to him and said, Simon, do you mind if I just give you a hug? And gave you a hug. And that is what you have done for so many. You're enabling people to journey with you. You are journeying with them without maybe even you realise it. But it's above all your faith in the Lord Jesus that has just blown me away, mate, and it's a huge, huge challenge for me. So thank you so much for that. I just want to leave just a couple of. I said this yesterday. This week. Simon is now a CEO. It's amazing. CEO of Bloodwise, and please Google Bloodwise when you get home. They do a remarkable work with blood cancer. And this was just earlier this week. In fact, I believe there were some people in this church who were at the Royal Albert Hall. They saw Simon, and there was a fundraiser for Bloodwise, and Ethan went up on screen, and what a lovely little fella. But as I said, I was putting these photos in this actually for yesterday together. There was a few photos I came across, and one was this, and I just felt just that I love the way you guys are journeying together. I know it's just been horrid, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. You said that you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. But seeing the relationship you have with Ethan is so beautiful, and I think it's just you just going off to the adventure in Thailand, and just that picture of you with your bags packed, arm in arm, journeying together. But I want to say this, and I said it yesterday, you're not alone, mate. You have a number of friends, family, who are rooting for you, and you have all of heaven rooting for you. And I really pray, and my big prayer is that the outlook for you guys is really bright. That the next few years, especially our generous ones, are kind ones to be there. And if David, if you don't mind, can I ask a few people to come up? I think we're going to be responding in a minute, but it would be great to have a few people to come and lay hands on Simon, especially if that's all right, and to pray for Simon, particularly with Christmas coming up, with this New Year. There's a lot on Simon's plate with Christmas, New Year, looking after Ethan, this new job with Bloodwise as their chief exec, and also bringing out a book which he's still writing to help those who are lonely and in darkness. So it'd be great to do that. And I think, David, you're going to announce in a minute there's going to be some prayer ministry for those who struggle. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Simon.